Friends, welcome to worship here at First Presbyterian Church, where faith is nurtured, curiosity encouraged, diversity welcomed, and all are loved. Thank you for joining us for worship today. If this is your first time with us, please text hello to the number on the screen. And if you are joining us for our Sunday morning worship watch party, say hi in the comments. Let us know who's worshiping together on this day. We do have a few highlights that we want to lift up for you, things that you might be interested in that are coming up. If you happen to be watching on Sunday morning, or maybe I should say before Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, we do have starting on Sunday the 21st at 9 o'clock one of our Lent classes. It will be on Zoom, and it's a Lent pilgrimage from Galilee to Jerusalem. And it is prepared for us videos and lectures and readings by the St. George's College in Jerusalem. So it's really a unique opportunity to hear the Lent stories and think about Lent in the context of the geography of the Holy Land. So hope you'll join us for that. And we also have starting this week on Wednesday 2 opportunities to join Chris in a study of Galatians. That's our Lent Bible study for this season. If you want to know about either of those, just go to the events tab on our website. You'll find everything you need there. Lastly, and certainly not least, next Sunday, February 28th, we are having our annual meeting of the congregation. We will meet over Zoom at 9:30 in the morning and then conclude that with our Zoom communion service at 10 o'clock. It's going to be a much shorter meeting than we normally have. We're just going to deal with some of the business that we need to get done early in the year. Later on, when we're feeling more comfortable getting together in person, we'll have a greater celebration of everything that happened last year and what we're looking forward to this year. But I hope you'll join us next Sunday, 9:30 a.m. on Zoom for our annual meeting. Friends, let us worship God. Today, we begin a journey through the season of Lent. And for this season, we are going to be exploring gifts from the dark wood. It's about seeing life through new eyes. When we allow ourselves to accept the journey within the dark woods, the Holy Spirit tends to nudge us and awaken us to a fuller life. But life is messy. Life is uncertain. Rather than a problem to be solved, what if we saw uncertainty, failure, and emptiness as gifts? What if we saw how these uncomfortable times can actually help us let go of all we cannot know so that we can live more fully and more wholly and wholeheartedly? That's what we'll be exploring during this season of Lent. Let us begin the journey with prayer. Unexpected love, enter our lives this day and open us to the gifts residing deep within the holy darkness of our lives. Walk with us, speak to us, call to us. Take our lives, and no matter where we find ourselves, may all we do give praise to you. In your many names we pray. Amen.
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Let them flow in ceaseless praise.
Fear is one of the greatest motivators in our lives. Unfortunately, the things it motivates us to do are not always the most healthy or faithful things. It's also one of the things that makes it difficult to embrace the gift of uncertainty that is a part of faith. But we worship a God who promises us that even when we are uncertain, God is with us. Let's take a moment to come before God in prayer, and as we do, consider, what fears do you give too much power to? We'll give you just a moment to think about that, and then Chris will lead us in prayer.
For giving fear too much face time. Forgive and restore us, O God. For digging in rather than going with the flow. Forgive and restore us, O God. For holding on too tight when what we need to do is to let go. Forgive and restore us, O God. Hear our prayers, O God. Amen.
Hear these words of assurance. God dwells with us, no matter how sure or unsure we are. God is not uncertain about whether or not we are worthy of love. God is with you, forgiving you and restoring you to wholeheartedness. Friends, that is the good news.
Hi, children of God. We're going to start out this morning with a body prayer. Now, you might ask what that is. That means we're going to use our bodies as we say the prayer. Now, anybody of any age can do this. Now, because I'm in this little video screen and I'm not showing you my whole body, I'm going to do most of the prayer with my hands. But when you do it, you can even add actions of bending down and some things like that to make it even more fun and more exercise for you. So here we go. I'm going to do it first, and then you're going to do it with me. So we're going to start this morning with a prayer. Here we go. Oh God, you are above. Do it with me. Oh God, you are above. You are below. Do that with me. You are below. You are inside of us. You are inside of us. And all around us. Your turn. And all around us. I worship you. I worship you. I give you myself. I give you myself. I love you. I love you, Lord, with all that I am. With all that I am. Amen. Amen. Thank you for joining me for that prayer this morning. Now, in just a little bit, Pastor Sue's message today is going to be using 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 11 and 12. I'm going to reach over here. You don't see me for a minute as I grab my Adventures Bible. And remember that 1 Corinthians is out of the Bible. Now, we've talked about this chapter before, friends, as the love chapter, chapter 13 in 1 Corinthians. And Paul, who was an early Christian missionary, wrote this book. And it's actually a letter to the people of Corinth. So it's in our Bible, but it is a letter. Now, Paul also wrote the book of Romans in the New Testament. And actually, the book of Romans is a letter to the Romans. Now, again, I disappeared so I could grab my Books of the Bible poster. Now, we had this one in our Sunday school room, so I brought it home for me to use. And you can see that all the books of the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, are divided up. And right here, I'm going to bring this a little closer to you and hope I don't have any shadows. It says letters, and you see Romans and 1 Corinthians. Those are on the shelf of letters that are in the Bible. So there's all different kinds of books in the Bible. We've talked about the poetry books before that are in the Bible, and we'll be talking about other ones later on. But there are actually many letters in the Bible. Do you see all those blue books? All of those blue books are letters that were written to people to tell them about Jesus or how to live the Christian life. So we're never alone. We have all that information. Now, Paul's message to the Christians in Rome was that when we have God in our heart, we just talked about hearts a whole bunch last week for Valentine's Day, didn't we? And when we pray to God, that things in our life will happen for good. Well, I want to make that easier for you to understand. Okay? So, I keep having to step out of the way. I put things on the table today, and they're a little out of my reach. So, do you know what this is? I bet all of you do. With this COVID, we've been seeing these a lot. This is a thermometer. And you go places and people, they push the button and then they put it up to your forehead and they push the button again and they check your temperature. Looks like I'm okay today. Now, this thermometer, it tells you what, this kind, tells you what the temperature of your body is. Okay? Now, here's another object right here. Do you know what this is? Think about it. Put your thumb up if you know what it is. Okay. Now, say it to someone in the room, and if there's no one in the room with you, just say it to yourself. Sometimes I have to talk to myself. Did you say this is a thermostat? Let's say that word together. Thermostat. Now, this also tells the temperature, but it tells the temperature of my house. It also has on it where I set what I want the temperature hopefully, to be in my house. And depending on the season, like right now, we know this week, I have used this thermostat a lot. Last week when it was so cold, I was turning the heat up. I was turning the heat up. And it was telling my furnace when to go on and off to keep the temperature just right. So what I want to say to you today is, I want you to be a thermostat in life, not a thermometer. Okay, I want you to hear that again. Because then you could tell people that, and they'll probably go, what are you talking about? And then you could explain it to them. I'm going to explain it to you. I want you to be a thermostat in life, not a thermometer. Now, a thermometer type person simply goes along with what's happening. This just simply goes along with whatever the temperature is in our body. So if everybody in the group you're in at school is happy, then you're happy. But if everybody or somebody's angry, then you just act angry with them because they're angry, not because you're angry. You just go along with the group. And if something is wrong with a thermometer type person, then they just think everything is wrong around them. And if you're following them, you will too. Now, a thermostat type person is completely different. Now, if you're this kind of a person, that means you decide how you ought to think. So my thermostat tells my furnace what I want the temperature to be in my house. I choose it. Okay, so if you're a thermostat, I'm having a little trouble saying that word. It's kind of fun with the TH sound at the beginning. If you're a thermostat type person, you decide how you want to think and to act. Now, being a thermostat means that you try to change the situation for the better. You don't just go along with the situation. So you try to be an influencer to your friends. Ooh, that's a big word. Let's say that one. Influencer. That means if your friend is feeling all grumpy and sad, maybe you show them some things that could make them be happy. You don't just follow along and do what they say. If your friend isn't treating someone else nicely, you don't just go along and do that. You treat that person nicely and you show them how to be a better person. A thermometer lets the temperature in the room change it. A thermostat changes the temperature in the room. So if you're a thermostat, you can change the temperature in the room. You can decide whether the room has a happy feeling or a joyful feeling. I'm saying all good feelings. So I want you this week and every day to be a thermostat. Now I want to read you something. I don't want you to just let life happen to you any old way. I want you to make life happen for the good, for yourself and all those around you. Oh, friends, I know you will do that this week. You will be a thermostat, and you will be showing others the love that God has shown you. Have a fantastic week. We hope we're going to have warmer temperatures, and when we do, remember to thank God for the sun and for the warmer temperatures and for you being a thermostat. Friends, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Through this world of toil and snares, if I falter, Lord, who cares? Who with me my burden shares? None but thee, dear Lord, none but thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be.
In 1964, archaeologists found the legendary pool of Bethzatha. It is the central location of one of Jesus' healing miracles, and it is probably one of the most unique of Jesus' healing miracles in that it is the only time Jesus healed somebody when the person did not want to be healed. Jesus healed him anyway. But it wasn't long, as we hear in the story, before he went back to his old way of life before being healed. So let's listen to the story and consider if you've ever had a moment when you didn't want the change that comes with healing and new life.
Now, in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool called in Hebrew Bethzatha, which has 5 porticos. In these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed, and they waited for the moving of the waters. From time to time, an angel of the Lord would come down and stir up the waters. The first one into the pool, after each such disturbance, would be cured of whatever disease they had. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I am making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." Jesus said to him, "Stand up, take your mat, and walk." At once, the man was made well, and he took up his mat, and he began to walk. Now that day was a Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who had been cured, "It is a Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your mat." But he answered them, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Take up your mat and walk.'" They asked him, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Take it up and walk'?" Now the man who had been healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had disappeared in the crowd that was there. Later, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "See, you have been made well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse happens to you." The man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Therefore, the Jews started persecuting Jesus because he was doing such things on the Sabbath.
So 1 Corinthians 13 is a chapter that I think a lot of us know really, really well. It is best known as Paul's chapter on love. It is so often read at weddings and even funerals. But there's a powerful statement in there about growing up and about how faith and life get more complicated.
Paul says, "When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known."
It's the only story of Jesus healing someone who did not want to be healed. This man had been sick for 38 years, and Jesus asked him, "Do you want to be made well?" Where we might expect an enthusiastic yes, or at least a cautious yes, all he has for Jesus are excuses. There's no one to help me. By the time I get up and move to the water, someone else has already made it there before me. What he didn't say was, "Yes, I want to be healed." His life was defined by his limitations. His social, religious, and economic life revolved around this magical pool and the community of beggars and ill who congregated there. By pretty much any measurement, it probably wasn't a great life. He did not have a lot of resources. He was looked down on by pretty much everybody. But it was the only life he'd known for 38 years. For good or bad, he knew what life looked like when he was ill. He had a community of colleagues who shared his status of outcast. He knew how to make a living by begging. No one expected anything from him. He didn't know what life looked like when he was well. So when Jesus finds him several days later, he actually finds him in the temple. And the temple was a prime location for beggars looking for charity. Healed or not, this man went back to his old way of life as if Jesus had never, ever crossed his path. We might wonder why someone would choose not to be healed. But the reality is, haven't we all found ourselves in that place before? Choosing the life we know over the one we don't know? I think most of us know that every job is not a dream job. I had one of those not dream jobs for a number of years, and I'll tell you, I was miserable the whole time I was there. It was one of those times where I knew literally the first week I'd made a terrible mistake in taking this job. But I'd already resigned from my previous position. I'd already moved and bought a house, so I was stuck, or at least I felt stuck. Even though all I could think about for 5 years was, when can I get out of here? How can I leave? I wasn't married at the time, so I didn't have a second income to fall back on if I quit. And if I did quit, what would I do? You don't just leave one church job and have a new one the next day. That's not how it works. And even though that job made me not want to do anything ministry related, I couldn't imagine doing anything other than church ministry. So I stayed. I stayed because I needed the certainty of knowing I had a paycheck. And I stayed because I wasn't comfortable with the idea of going in a new direction without a clue what direction that would be. Paul talks about seeing in a mirror dimly. And I think most of us can resonate with that. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know if one path will prove to be better than another when we set out on it. But as Paul talks about this, he talks about it as a blessing and a gift. Certainty, he says, is for children. When we grow up, we come to realize that nothing in life is really certain. Nothing is black and white. Nothing is a sure thing. And there's always more to the story that we don't know. Eric Elnes, in his book, Gifts of the Darkwood, notes that the word translated as dimly in Paul's letter comes from the Greek word enigmati, which is where we get the word enigma from, which means difficult to understand, difficult to interpret, ambiguous. I think about that word. I think there's an element of mystery in that. Part of growing up into a mature faith is realizing we're never going to see the full picture in this life. There will always be an element of mystery, no matter where we go, no matter what we do. For Paul, embracing that was a sign of maturity, embracing that sense of mystery and enigma. Because as adults, we understand better than kids the complexity of life. It's just that simple. And it was also a sign of faith. Because the only way one could truly embrace the unknown and find the gifts in it is by knowing and trusting the one who leads us there. John Ortberg, in his book Faith and Doubt, says, we all think we want certainty, but we don't. What we really want is trust wisely placed. We all think we want certainty, but we really don't. What we really want is trust wisely placed. We want to know that no matter where we are, no matter what our circumstances, God is with us. We want to know that God will not leave us to figure out this mystery, this enigma of life on our own. We want to know that when we don't know the way forward, God does, and God will find a way to guide us. When I finally left that not-so-good job after 5 years, I actually did so without another job in the wings. It finally taken enough of a toll on me that I simply had to break away. But I had no clue what I was going to do next. I had no clue what I wanted to do next. And to be honest, I was burnt out, so I guess I probably really didn't want to do anything for a while. It was a little scary. I still had bills to pay, but no paycheck coming in. But a friend started pestering me to apply for this church job in a city where he lived. And even though I really wasn't so sure I ever wanted to work in a church again, he just didn't give up. So I finally just gave in, more to keep him quiet than anything else. I just gave in and I applied, and you know something? I got the job. And I have never regretted it, because that job set me off on a path that allowed me to do work that I was passionate about, work that I didn't even know I was passionate about. And it gave me an opportunity to use gifts I'd been developing over the years but hadn't really had the chance to ever really use. I felt like I'd finally found my place, truly, for the first time in my entire career. You see, sometimes you have to embrace the uncertainty. Sometimes you have to actually run to the uncertainty. And I learned to trust that even if I can't see the way forward, God can. Illness says that trust is developed in the cauldron of uncertainty that gives us the confidence to allow the sweet spot moments of our lives to lead us more deeply into the dark wood and find our place in this world. Sweet spot moments. Those sweet spot moments sometimes look like friends who won't stop pestering you to apply for a job. Or it might be that feeling that something's not quite right and something needs to change, but you aren't quite sure what that is. Or it could be a flash of insight or even just a fleeting thought. But when we put all of those together, patterns emerge. And sometimes they lead us out of the dark wood into a new beginning. Sometimes, like me, they actually lead us deeper into the dark wood until we find our true selves. I had to actually enter the dark wood, embrace the uncertainty of not knowing, to finally let go of those things that were stopping me from fully living the gifts God had given me. The image of dark wood actually comes from Dante's Inferno. In Dante's world, the dark wood is a place of confusion, emptiness, stumbling, a place our sin leads us to, away from God and toward the fires of hell. But Christian mystics such as John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila saw the dark wood as a holy place, a place where one receives strange and wondrous gifts whose value vastly exceeds whatever hardships are encountered there. Or as Elnis says, it's where you meet God. And I would add, it's where God meets us. I keep thinking about that man that Jesus healed, the one who wanted to stay within the comfortable certainty of his limitations. But that was not the life God desired for him. When Jesus later saw him in the temple, he saw he was back to his old life. What did he tell him? Sin no more. Give up that life. Embrace the new life I've made possible for him. God did not desire him to live that life of limitations where he had no freedom to grow, no freedom to be more than he was, no freedom to become the person God created him to be. If he was going to do that, he had to embrace the uncertainty of a future where he could only see dimly in order to discover where God, who could see clearly, was leading him. I get wanting certainty in our lives. I get wanting stability and knowing what comes next. I mean, I want that as much as anybody does. But I look back at the great people in Scripture, and not a single one of them knew what the future held or where God would lead them. Abraham, Moses, Deborah, Gideon, Paul, Mary, all of them had to trust the one who called them when they could only see dimly, if even that. They had to let go of the certainties they held on to, enter the dark wood to find themselves and to find their purpose. I read their stories, I look at my own, and I have to wonder, what certainty is God asking us to let go of? What certainty is God asking you to let go of? To find the path God is calling you to take.
Be not afraid, for I have redeemed you. Be not afraid, I have called you by name. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the floods, they will not sweep o'er you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be consumed. You are mine, you are precious in my sight. Be not afraid, for I have redeemed you. Be not afraid, I have called you by name. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the floods, they will not sweep o'er you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be consumed. You are mine, you are precious in my sight. My love for you is everlasting. My love for you shall have no end. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the flood,
As we join together in prayer, email or text your prayer request to us here at the church. The links you will find on the screen and in the bulletin. So let's now take a breath as we come together to lift our hearts to God in prayer. Most loving God, we come before you in these days of Lent, grateful for your presence, grateful for your love, and grateful for your gifts of grace and salvation and the life, death, and resurrection of your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, may our journey through Lent be a time to let go of those thoughts and desires which separate us from you as we seek ways of becoming more like the person you made us to be. Open our eyes so that we may see beyond our own needs, that we may reach out to those around us who are struggling. Give us courage to embrace the unknown, trusting in your guiding spirit to lead us along paths that appear uncertain to us, but that are fully known to you. Be with those who are struggling as a result of extreme weather and who have no good shelter. We ask that you lay your healing hand upon those who are suffering from illness and undergoing surgery, that they may feel your presence and your warm embrace and be comforted in a time of uncertainty. We ask that you be with those who are nearing the end of their time with us on earth. May they and their families feel your warm embrace and know that you are with them on their journey home to you. We ask that you place your guiding hand upon our leaders, leaders of our churches, our states, our nation, and the world. We ask that you bring your Spirit upon them and guide them in making decisions, keeping with the will for your people. All of this we ask in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who taught us to pray by saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
So as we come before God today in worship, we come bringing all of our gifts. Even as we celebrate the gifts God gives us, even this strange gift of uncertainty, of letting go of what we know so that there is space for God to lead us to new things, we also bring to God our gifts of our volunteer time, of our dollars to help further the ministry of Christ in the world, of our prayers. We invite you to be a part of what God is doing in the world through all of those ways, through your giving, whether it's through this church or the many wonderful organizations in our community. I'll be honest, I'm thinking especially about those that meet the needs of some of our homeless members in our community during these times in winter when it is so bitterly cold. But we also use these gifts to plant seeds in the garden that will come up this spring, and to encourage those who will be coming back to this building to get strength and sustenance on their journeys for sobriety. All of those ways, your gifts make an impact. I encourage you and welcome you to our ministry by your continued gifts. You can see on the screen various ways you can give, or just go to our website and click the Give tab at the top of the page. It'll show you all the ways that you could give. Pick whatever is easiest for you. Whatever amount you give is fine, because we put them all together and God can do amazing things with what we put together. So thank you for your giving. I welcome your continued partnership as we continue to be Christ's body in the world, in this place and beyond. Friends, you have a place in this world. You may have found it already, or you may still be trying to figure out what it is. We are invited to give up the things we know for sure about our lives so that God can lead us to the place where God desires us most. So I encourage you to embrace that gift of uncertainty in your life. It can be scary at times, but what comes out the other side is better than you ever could have imagined, because the one who leads us there sees the end, even if we can't. May the Spirit of the living God, made known to us most fully within the dark wood, go before you to show you the way, go above you to watch over you, go behind you to push you into those places you may not necessarily want to go yourself, go beneath you to uphold you and uplift you, go beside you to be your strong and constant companion, and dwell within you to remind you that you are not alone and that you are loved. May the fire of God's blessing burn brightly upon you and within you. Amen. Thanks for joining us at First Presbyterian Church, where faith is nurtured, curiosity encouraged, diversity welcomed, and all are loved. Find out more about us at fpclincoln.org or find us on Facebook.